Henry Cejudo comes back this weekend to take on Yadong at UFC Fight Night Seattle, and I'm going to go through the entire card and give you my predictions and breakdown as to why I think each guy's going to win. Disclaimer, I do not feel good. Let's begin. Modestas Bukauskas takes on Rafael Sequeira. I'm not great with pronunciation. I think Modestas has looked pretty good lately. He's good on the feet. Some of his losses are to decent names like Khalil Roundtree, Jimmy Crute, Michael Olasejczyk. You know, decent guys. He isn't the greatest, but I definitely do think he's better than Rafael. I think he'll probably get a decision win, probably 29-28, maybe even a 30-27. I just think he's a better fighter. Who cares? It's the first fight of the card. Monser Abdulmalik versus Nick Klein. Nick Klein doesn't scream anything good to me. He's gone to a lot of decisions in his career. This is his UFC debut, but in his fights before this, it's been a lot of decisions. I don't think he's anything too special. I think Abdulmalik is pretty decent, and he's been on a decent little run lately. And I think he's going to be able to get this one done, and so do the odds makers, because he's a pretty hefty favorite in this one. Ricky Simón versus Javid Basharat. This is actually a very interesting matchup. I don't think Ricky Simón is quite what he was. He was on a good run, and now he's been getting starched. His last loss was to Vinicius Oliveira, which is fine because Vinicius Oliveira is literally the champion. Give it like 2 years. If you know, you know. And Javid Basharat, he has a lot of hype, but he isn't that good in my opinion. I think he's okay. He's not the best on the feet, but his grappling's very strong. But you know who else is? Ricky Simón. They're definitely strongest in the grappling aspect. I think Ricky Simón might even have a power advantage. He definitely has a power advantage. What am I saying? The striking, probably Simón. Basharat's a pretty big favorite in this fight, and I get why, but I don't mind the odds of picking an underdog in Ricky Simón. I think this is actually a really good underdog pick. That being said, I'm still going to go Javid Basharat. I think this fight's going to go to decision, and I think Basharat's going to do just a little bit more. I don't think Ricky Simón is quite what he used to be. I don't know. I think Javid Basharat is definitely the guy the UFC will want to win too. If it's close, it's going to go to Basharat. And I think it's going to be a 29-28 decision win for Javid Basharat. Alonzo Menifield versus Julius Walker. This one's low-key kind of rough because Walker's making his debut, but he's 6-0 with 6 finishes outside of the UFC, which is crazy. Facing Alonzo Menifield in your UFC debut is cooked. I think Menifield's going to get this one done by an early rounds TKO, probably round 1 or 2, solely because we don't really know what Julius Walker has in store for us. Of course, this is his debut. Yes, I've seen that he's 6-0 with 6 finishes. I still don't think that's enough. I think Menifield's pretty good. He's powerful. He has a lot of experience. If Julius Walker's good, he'll make this a competitive fight. He'll maybe even win. And then I'll never pick against him again or something. But I do think Alonzo Menifield's going to get this one done. First or second round TKO. Adam Fugit versus Billy Ray Goff. I'm going with Billy Ray Goff here. I think he's tougher than Adam Fugit, and I don't think Fugit is all that good. Now, Billy Ray Goff is coming off of a loss to Trey Waters, but it was super close. Could have gone either way, and he had a lot of grit in that fight. It was honestly very back and forth. It was a big competitive slugfest war of a fight. Goff is a favorite in this matchup, so I guess the odds makers are seeing what I'm seeing, that he's just got more grit. He's tougher. I think he's going to put it on Adam Fugit and be able to get this one done. Jan Kutalaba versus Ibo Aslan. Oh, God, a Jan Kutalaba fight. These are tough to predict. Jan Kutalaba is literally the Angela Hill of the men's weight classes. His record's terrible. He wins fights he shouldn't win. He loses fights he should win. He's just insanely hard to trust, and I think Ibo Aslan is decent. He's on a good little streak here. He's 14-1 on a 6-fight win streak, and I think at this point in their careers, I think he's better than Kutalaba. Kutalaba does try to make it a dogfight, try to make it a war. And honestly, I'm going to choose Ibo Aslan to just catch him and get this one done in the second or third round. I think Kutalaba is going to try to crash in, get frustrated that he's losing, and he's going to get caught. I think Ibo Aslan isn't that great, but I definitely think he's better than Jan Kutalaba at this point. And if Jan Kutalaba wins, I'm never predicting one of his fights again. Andre Fili versus Melkaziel Costa. I do know the man. I just don't know how to say his name. Andre Fili's exciting. I really like his style. I feel like every time he's on a card, it's a pretty good fight. He's just a fun fighter, but Costa is definitely someone coming up right now. He last lost to Steve Garcia, and he's coming off a win by submission. I think Fili's a tough matchup. He had a really good competitive fight with Cub Swanson. It was kind of a war, honestly. They just went back and forth. He only gets KO'd by, like, pretty good competition like Dan Ige. I don't know. I think Fili is better at this point. I think this is a tough matchup for Costa. at this point in his career. I'm going with Philly to get like a 29-28 decision. I think it's going to be a really good fight. Low-key like fight of the night contender. Nursultan Rozaboyev versus Eric McConaughey. I think that's how you say it. I probably butchered that. McConaughey is making his debut, and again, I think this is a really tough matchup to be up against in your UFC debut. Rozaboyev is massive. He isn't that good, honestly, but he was on a 10-fight win streak before running into Buckley. And let's just say this, Buckley is low-key, like, he's a title threat right now. He could honestly fight for the title by the end of the year. It's not a bad loss to have by any means. I think Rozaboyev is just going to be too much. I think his experience is a big part of this. He has a lot of fights compared to Eric McConaughey, and I believe McConaughey is stepping on short notice. Not a good look. And I also think the physicality and size of Rozaboyev is going to be too much. He'll probably get a second-round TKO. Rob Font versus Gene Mastamuto. This is a tough fight. Mastamuto is stepping on short notice to replace Dominic Cruz, who sadly pulled out of this fight and having to retire. Now, I didn't love the Font versus Cruz matchmaking anyways, but it did suck that Cruz isn't going to get his retirement fight. If the UFC wants, I'll step in there, give Dominic Cruz one last fight, Just give me a decent check, I'll get whooped. I'm fine with it. I think Rob Font's still solid for sure. He's a great boxer and only really loses to good competition. Guys like Figueiredo, Sandhagen, Chito Vera, and Jose Aldo being the most recent losses in his career. And I believe Gene was scheduled to fight someone else in a later card, and he stepped in on this because he's a beast. He's undefeated, he's well-rounded, he's the favorite in this matchup. God, this is reminding me of my Calvin Kattar versus Yusuf Zalal pick. I picked Kattar because I thought like his experience and I thought all this stuff that I explained in the last video was going to be a factor. Part of me really wants to pick Rob Font. I think he's still good. He's a great underdog pick. You know what? In my notes I have Gene winning. Give me Rob Font. I'm going to regret this. I'm picking Rob Font, 29-28 decision. I think Gene's probably the smarter option here. But I like Rob Font. I think he's good. He only loses to beasts like that. And if Gene wins, then clearly he's something to look out for. I'm going Rob Font. I am. He's been more ready for this fight too. Gene's stepping in on short notice. I know he had a fight booked. Stepping in earlier than he thought. I'm going Rob Font. Decision. I think his boxing's going to be really good. I think they're going to stay on the feet for the most part, even though Gene is a little bit more well-rounded. If Gene has a good game plan, he'll try to wrestle him because Font's wrestling defense is terrible. I'm going Rob Font. Gene Silva versus Melsik Bogdasarian. Whew. I do not understand this matchup. Gene Silva literally just came off of a KO to Drew Dober. Give this man a ranked opponent, but nope, you're giving him Melsik Bogdasarian, who to a casual fan, you'll have no idea who Melsik is. Let me tell you, Melsik's a pretty decent fighter. He's good on the feet. He's got a good record. He makes me mad because his last fight was in July of 2023. Oh my God. I do think he's solid, and I don't think Gene Silva's going to run through him. I don't think he's going to murder him in like a round. But probably in like the second, I think Gene Silva's going to just get scrappy, knock him down, get the TKO. I think Gene Silva is that guy. I don't know if he'll ever be a champion, but I definitely think he's a top 10, debatably top 5 fighter in his weight class. Gene Silva's a beast. He's got a lot of stock put into him, and for good reason. I do think he gets this one done. I think he's a better fighter. I think his activity's better. I think he's hungry. He's on the rise. Kind of low-key like a big name for not even being like a ranked fighter. So I'm going Gene Silva. Fighting nerds, they're great. Brendan Allen versus Anthony Hernandez. Yep, I'm going Anthony Hernandez. I think he's really, really good. And Brendan Allen is not bad by any means. He's actually quite solid. He puts on good, fun fights, and he was on an insane run before running into Nasruddin Imavov, who's proven to be elite. Something that Imavov fight showed me, though, is that if he doesn't get that takedown, he begins to kind of quit. He begins to kind of stress out. He needs a cigarette and some alcohol because he is stressing out here. His hairline starts receding. He's just a shell of himself. The thing is, his strategy is going to be wrestling probably because Brendan Allen is a great wrestler and grappler. You know who's better though? Anthony Hernandez. I think Anthony Hernandez's grappling is better than Brendan Allen's. Now on the feet, I think Brendan Allen's going to look more technical, look more professional out there. He's probably got better looking stand-up, but I think Anthony Hernandez is going to make it a dogfight, keep Adesanya away. His cardio is absolutely unbelievable. He pushes an insane pace. He usually dominates fights, and I could low-key see him just getting the better of Brendan Allen in every exchange they have. Probably going to be like a 30-27 decision for Anthony Hernandez. That being said, I think every round's still going to be competitive, but I think Hernandez is going to win every round. I think he's low-key a dark horse to be a middleweight champion. If he loses this, I'm going to be eating my words. I really like Anthony Hernandez. I think he's a beast. Give me Anthony Hernandez. What? Give me Anthony Hernandez. 30-27 decision. And in the main event, Triple C, Henry Cejudo, taking on Song Yadong. This is a tough one. Henry Cejudo's ruining his legacy. he should have retired after the Aljo fight. He actually just should have stayed retired, and then none of this would be happening. That being said, Song Yadong is good. He made a fight against Peter Yan relatively close. I thought he won a round. I believe he did win a round, 29-28. Peter Yan did outclass him. Peter Yan was also able to take him down. Henry Cejudo, I think, is a better wrestler than Peter Yan, although I don't think his wrestling is quite as good as we make it out to be. On the feet, Song Yadong's definitely got an advantage. Now that I'm thinking about it and saying it out loud, this kind of feels like a fight Song Yadong might win. But I'm going to go with Henry Cejudo. I think Henry Cejudo is going to put a good pace on him. I think his wrestling is going to be there as an option. I do think he'll be able to get Song Yadong down. I think he'll be able to control him. And if this goes the way I think it goes all 5 rounds. I don't believe in Song Yadong's power the way they promote it. Literally in the ad, they said, knockout artist Song Yadong. He hasn't gotten a knockout in years. Literal years. He TKO'd Ricky Simone, but who cares? I think Cejudo's still good. His last loss was to, Merab? Okay. Yes, he was getting tagged by Merab a little bit, but he also tagged Merab himself. He also lost to Aljamain Sterling. 2 champions. I don't think Song Yadong is on the same level. I think if Cejudo fights like he did against Merab against Song Yadong, he probably wins, honestly, because they're just such different fighters. I'm picking Henry Cejudo to get this one done by decision, probably like 48-47, but I do think it'll be a clear decision win for Henry Cejudo. I still believe in him, kind of. I think he should retire if he loses this. Debatably, if he wins it too. If he wins, though, he could look for that O'Malley fight one day, because people would want to see that. I think O'Malley absolutely kills Henry Cejudo, but you never know what they could do. Peter Yan versus Cejudo could be fun. I don't know. I'm picking Henry Cejudo. If he loses, that's just such an embarrassment to his legacy. My God. But I still think Henry Cejudo's good, and Song Yadong honestly isn't that amazing. Not the way I thought he was at one point in my lifetime. So I'm picking Henry Cejudo. Those are my picks. We'll see how I do. Last card I went, 7-5, I think. Not great. But the cards before that, I was on a roll. You see my record. We'll see what it turns into by the end of this fight night. I'll do a full card breakdown and recap on Saturday after the fights, and we'll talk about it. Thank you for watching. If you agreed with my picks, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your locks of the card. Let me know your predictions, any underdogs you got. All that fun stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Have a good one.